Colin. I'd like to welcome to the stage Colin Marsh.
Good morning, or is it good afternoon, everyone? Thank you for the introduction, Colin. Very kind of you. In today's presentation, I'm going to be covering some of last year's concept DTF products. They've now come to market a little bit quicker than was estimated, but we've got some very special things going on at this show. Some things in DTF are set to change the market forever, which we're going to have a little talk about later on. So let's just jump in. Can I just ask a quick question, and don't be afraid to put your hand up. Anybody in here that's already producing DTF, whether that's buying in gang sheets or printing it yourself or whatever, just so I can get a gauge of, okay, most of you, that's good. Okay, so the first topic that was in development in 2025 is faux embroidery. That's changed a little bit now, and it's gone tactile and UV rather than water-based. So we're going to be talking about that. The spin-off from there is 3D TPU patch, which is a silicon patch alternative. It's not to replace it, but with it being digital, it's variable data. Subject number 3 is spot colours. So that's quite a hot topic at the moment. So if you're using RGBO or you CMYK, you've got a much wider colour gamut and very flat colours. Number 4 is metallics. Now, all of you that are doing DTF that put your hand up, have you tried metallics? Because they look good, but they didn't have the durability. Well, that's now changed. So we have metallics that are actually got 32 industrial wash tests. Powderless DTF. So it's a particularly interesting product. It's been around for about 5 years, but it never overtook DTG or regular DTF. Mainly because it didn't work, but now it does, and we're going to show you that system in a little video later on, so we'll talk about that later. And last but not least, automation. So can robotics help your business? Can it make you save money? Can it streamline your process? And robotics in print are not as glamorous as what we see walking around at other trade shows, so we're going to take a quick look at that. At the end, anybody got any questions for me? Love you to ask me, good or bad. It's my job here today to answer your questions. I'll do it quite unbiasedly. Okay? So, first subject we're going to look at is faux embroidery, 3D and 3D patch. Okay? So, it's quite a tactile presentation. So, rather than just do a load of videos, Eleanor's going to hand round a couple of samples. If you can have a look at them and then pass them forward to the next row, and then she'll come round and do the other ones as we come round. So faux embroidery appeared last year, and it's now gone one step further. It not only looks like embroidery now, it has the same texture as embroidery. So you take a logo, you digitize it, looks like embroidery, you now texture it so you can make it go there, texture. Now these images that I'm showing, we're quite lucky today. I'm going to call Dawn now. She does the digitizing here. She's the best digitizer I've ever known, so she lets me use her images in a demonstration, so I'm quite pleased about that. So the 3D faux embroidery, you've got no skin contact. So in some areas where you're looking at doing embroidery, you can get some rubbing and stuff. So with this, there's no contact. It's actually faster, and it will cost you less than doing embroidery if you take the time into consideration that it goes to do. And it can be applied to more products. So where you couldn't embroider things like a bag, a rucksack, things like that, you can actually apply 2 types now. One with a heat press, and one that's actually self-adhesive. So that's your 3D embroidery. Flex UV is where that came from. So we have very, very flexible UV inks now, and we can produce something called thread simulation. So we're not restricted to copying embroidery thread. And what that means is you can produce things like this. So it would take a long time, hours of hand stitching to make that individually on each product. With Flex UV, this means you can now decorate products that look totally different to traditional embroidery. And one of the benefits of 3D faux thread is it's not just for fabrics. So you can go on different textures, different decoratable products. Looking at this little guy here, how cool is that going to be on a notebook? So it can be made self-adhesive, so you've got a tactile notebook cover. You can go onto wood, metal and plastic, and even water bottles and greeting cards. So there's a lot of promotional items that you can do with this new Flex UV technology. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is the patch. Same ink, same machine. So you've got two processes there that can be done on the same equipment. All you need to do is change the media over to TPU from the faux embroidery, and a TPU patch is applied by a 15-second heat press. So it's not a long heat press. You've got the same printer, so two processes in there. These printers also with different media can do the traditional DTF transfer. So you've actually got 3-4 products in there to do. Okay, and your patches are done by a heat press. It is extremely durable. On the ones that's been passed around, I don't know if anybody's peeled one off. You can peel one off and pull it, you'll see. It's very flexible and it will not crack. And the adhesive on the back is extremely strong. So for sportswear and things like that, it's incredible. I just see a guy pulling one off there, so give it a good tug and you'll see. So sportswear, logos and sponsors, it's very popular for that. And it adds a little bit of the designer value. So we've all seen the little silicone patches on sleeves and things like that. You can actually command quite a lot of money for that when you're doing fashion wear. Different media, water bottles. If you've got a sublimation mug press, you can put a TPU patch straight onto a metal water bottle and it looks quite stunning and tactile. Notebooks, shoes, that's another item that doesn't get decorated very much and it's very, very lucrative. Baseball shoes and things like that. These patches go on very well. And even tactile phone cases. So we've got this special ink, all these processes. How do you apply it? So we're using technology with this 3D Flex ink called nicknamed Tilt. And anybody that's got a printer in here, when you see this next image, it doesn't really compute. So Tilt gives speed by rotation. So when you look at a cap station and you see that capping pad there, it's angled at 45 degrees. It should not work. Your printhead is angled at 45 degrees. That's mathematically elongated the printhead so it can actually print faster. Okay? So Tilt technology is where we're using one printhead to print faster than 2 or 3 printheads with the Flex UV ink. And this can do multifunction, so you've got your UV transfers, 3D faux embroidery, and TPU patch from one machine with one printer. Now what do they look like? That's a typical Tilt machine. So you can see it looks like a traditional UV printer for DTF textiles. Has a scrubber on the side because of the speed of the carriage. You can get some misting in there. That just keeps any odour down from the ink. Price wise, normally at the show, this is going to be a sub 10k piece of equipment. So it's not a massive investment to give you all 3 of those processes that you want to do. With that, you're going to expect full parts and labour warranty, delivery and installation. So it's a very nice figure for somebody to get into promotional items. You can do such a lot with it. So there's a quick video clip now. If you try and focus in, there's a butterfly going to print at the back of this sheet. You will actually see with a single printhead, it's printing at 5 meters an hour, which with texture is quite incredible. And anybody with a UV printer, you'll know that that's quite fast for a carriage to go. You just with a single printhead, angled at 45 degrees. Also very good for fine detail. If you look at that logo there, the Resolute word is hairline graphics. You can see it's not struggling to print that at all, even at that speed. So with Tilt, you're going to get 5 meters an hour with one single printhead. Moving on from there, we're moving on to the spot color scenario. So this is a bit of a trend that's gone a bit ballistic this year. So with the introduction of red, green, blue and orange, you get a much higher color gamut. So your spot colors are going to give you deeper colors. So we're going to look at what are they, when to use them, and how to use them. It's not that simple. So the most common spot colors that we use, and we find these give you the widest gamut, is we've got red, green, orange and blue. Now with you printing DTF, you guys, you'll know if you're trying to do something like a reflex blue or an 072 blue, you end up with it either looking a bit purpley or a bit faded. It's quite hard to do. So you look at that, you've got very close to a reflex blue, a bright orange, a green and a red. You get much flatter colours with the spot colours because you're not mixing a colour. So it gets that look of vinyl, but without the vinyl feel. It's much softer to do. Okay. So looking at this picture of an eagle's head, I'm not quite sure how this is going to look on the screen, but you can allocate spot colours individually, or you can let the ICC of the RIP do it, push that in, and it will do it for you. So it's a perfect example of where you've got a vector file that's going to benefit with the overall look. Okay. When you drop that in, if you've allocated spot colours, the RIP will recognise it and place them, or if they're not allocated, it's going to use its ICC profile to actually mix those in and blend them quite well. And you can see there we're just listing spot 1, 2, 3 and 4. That's all it needs to know in the artwork. You can use an Illustrator file, a PDF or whatever, it will retain those layers. So the second eagle's head, and this is how I don't know how it's going to look, is CMYK. And on my screen it looks a little bit different. You can see it doesn't have the same depth. So with your spot colours you get a lot more depth and vibrancy without it going too far over the scale on the other side. So spot colours are going to achieve better Pantone colour matching. If any of you are doing a corporate logo and things like that where they've got to match a Pantone colour, you're going to get much closer the first time. They offer you a greater depth. So when you're looking at spot colours, the depth of it is going to look nicer, pleasing to the eye, because it's not mixed, so it's a flat colour. Your blends come out better, so if you're mixing it with vignettes and things like that, you get much nicer blends because you're starting with a colour, and you will achieve a better level of colour consistency because you're actually using 8 layers rather than 4, so by default it's going to be more reliable. Okay, so the next long-awaited alternative that we have is the products of metallic. Now, Eleanor's going to pass around a couple of metallic shirts. Have a look at these. You would be quite amazed to find out that these have 32 industrial washes and pass with flying colours. So DTF always failed when it was trying to replicate vinyls that are metallic. So it's another example of the investment that's going into DTF. It's a rapid development. The most obvious benefit when you're using DTF metallics is there's no cutting and there's no weeding. You just print white ink on the back of it and then heat press it, and it is a cold peel. Okay? The media itself actually costs less than the traditional metallic vinyls now. As those don't be as popular, the price is rising. So you can actually get the durability that you want and the ease of DTF onto a metallic shirt. And like I said, 32 washes, industrial testing, it's pretty bomb-proof. You can also double up, so you can do metallic and colour, so you can layer it just like you would do if you were doing a traditional vinyl. So the next topic moving on is one that we've all been waiting for, powderless DTF, or jettable adhesive. Okay? So this has been a little bit of a race to the moon. It's been around for 5 years, and it was hailed to be the holy grail of DTF if it was going to work. It has appeared now in a different form of jettable adhesive, not called powderless anymore. So why didn't it take off? Why didn't it take off 5 years ago with DTF and DTG? It couldn't produce the durability on cotton. So for polyester it was fine, but that's a very small market when you look at the percentage of garments that gets decorated. So it had to work on cotton. So we've now not got the poor durability on cotton that we did have before. We're doing 20, 25 washes with no degradation, cracking or anything like that. It did become a race to the moon. You probably don't realise it today, but we have got the winner who got on the moon first. So we've got Rob, who's flown in from the States, from DuPont. He's going to say a couple of words in a minute, just after we get through this. So he's responsible for this whole thing taking off. So there's a little quick promo video here just explaining where it's come from and how it works.
Say goodbye to powder and hello to a cleaner, simpler DTF process. Jettable adhesive delivers vibrant colors, a softer hand feel, and wash durability your customers will have on cottons, polyester, and more. Designed for decorators who require quality and streamlined workflows, jettable adhesive is the future of garment decoration. At DuPont Artistry, innovation never stops. Our jettable adhesive is a major step forward in DTF print. By replacing traditional powder with a liquid adhesive jetted directly onto the film, the process becomes cleaner, more efficient, and safer, reducing handling risks, simplifying maintenance, and minimizing downtime. We have measured the difference. Compared to traditional powder, jetted adhesive delivers up to 70% reduction in total material applied to the garment. This results in a thinner adhesive layer and a much better hand feel. Notice how the garment printed with jetted adhesive forms a tighter fold, while the powder printed garment shows a stiffer fold. This difference is especially visible on polyester fabrics. Another clear advantage is stretchability. When the printed image is stretched, the powder-based print cracks and breaks more easily, while the jettable adhesive print remains flexible and durable. Elevate your prints. With jettable adhesive, you get higher quality, less mess, and a future-ready work.
So there's the explanation of powderless DTF. So I don't know if Ellen has already passed around the powderless t-shirts. Hopefully you'll be able to tell which ones they are just by feeling them. So jettable adhesive has come out from DuPont. You can actually see it here at this show working if you want to. It's working on the cotton and the polyester blends. So the original powderless process was quite a long heat press. It was 60 seconds and cold peel. Now, by today's standards, that's not really acceptable. People aren't going to wait a whole minute to have a t-shirt done. With this new jettable adhesive, we're down to 20 seconds on polyester and 30 seconds on cotton with a very quick second press, and that's all you need to do. And it is an instant hot peel. So it's a very quick process. Now, the machine that we are sort of pushing forward is a hybrid system. So if you're doing DTF and all of a sudden you've got to produce something medical, or for a garage, so you've got overalls that are going to be washed at 60 degrees, you can't use standard powder. So you have to use a specialist powder. So the hybrid systems mean if you've got an order for some custom transfers that are going to have to be hot washed on a daily basis, and they need to be very durable, you can just use powder through a hybrid system, switch off the jettable adhesive, or leave it on, and you've got even more durability. So hybrid systems are really where it's going to be. It's obviously a much softer hand feel, very, very similar to DTG. DTG always ruled over DTF with a hand feel. Now, when you feel a powderless print, in some cases, I actually think it's better than DTG, depending on what it's been used for the DTG. Another obvious benefit there over DTG is there's no pre-treatment required. Now, pre-treatments come in all shapes and forms for different fabrics. We're not trying to bash DTG, but obviously with no pre-treatment, you're cutting out a process, which means you're actually going to go quicker anyway. Same transfer for all fabrics. So obviously if you're going to print polyester and you're going to print cotton, you use the same transfer with this DTF and jettable adhesive. You cannot do that with DTG because it comes out totally different. So it's another advantage over the top. We actually get sharper detail. So when powder goes on the back of ink and it's curing, it can sometimes fuzz it a little bit. With jettable adhesive, you've got full control. Powder is on or off. With the jettable adhesive, you can control how much is going down, choke and spread, make sure you've got it through your edges and everything else. So it's better quality. More versatile systems, so they're all multifunction. So you've got really two systems in one, which is where you sort of kind of want to be with just one footprint. Okay. So we're going into hybrids again. So yeah, with DTG, if you're going to want to do polyester printing and cotton, that could be a very, very expensive thing because you've got to have a separate machine. There are DTGs made specifically for polyester, which we don't need. High-end DTF systems are modular, so you'll see systems coming out very soon where they both print onto the conveyor belt, the sheets are slit, taken away and pressed. So they come through a sort of high-end where you're doing thousands of garments a day. And it's suitable for short and long runs. You've got no setup at all. So I'm just going to ask Rob to come up and say a couple of quick words. He's travelled quite a long way to come and see this product that he's launched. And then we'll go on to the robotics.
Hello everyone, my name is Rob Simpson. I'm the General Manager for the Artistry Digital Printing Solutions business. I think I'm going to put Colin on staff because he did a better job selling the new product that we've brought to market. Launched it Printing United last year, introduced it at the Impressions Expo in Long Beach earlier in January, and Colin and his team are really the first ones to bring it to market. So super proud of the work that we've done in the lab to develop our jettable adhesive, and we do believe it has a lot of potential to help transform the apparel decoration market and really take DTF to the next level, the next level of integration. A lot of work still to do to continue to drive the solutions and the consumables for DTF. And that's ultimately what DuPont is focused on, is actually trying to improve the productivity of the system through better materials. So happy to have Colin as a partner to bring the jettable piece to the market, and hoping to hear through Colin all of the successes you guys have with it.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
I didn't give him any notice either, so that was off the cuff. So moving on now to robotics. So it's a hot topic. We see robots popping up everywhere now, but in the printing industry, they're not quite as glamorous as everywhere else. So I don't know if you were watching the Chinese celebrations. These are actually, it's not AI, these are humanoid robots that actually have the same kind of balance ability. And looking at them, the way they're moving and everything else, it's quite scary. Now, these are obviously very, very expensive robots and designed for a specific thing. If you're wanting to use robots in production, they're not quite as glamorous. So, let me introduce you to Robbie. Robbie is a pallet wrapper. But the difference is there, you might say, well, why would you have a robot to wrap pallets? He costs £5,000 and he works 24/7. So he's a quarter of minimum wage. He's actually doing the job of 2 people. In my business, we wrap about between 10 and 15 pallets a day. He just gets on with it and does it. So not as glamorous if you see with the dancing robots that are doing all the kung fu and the moves, but a robot like that is actually very cost effective and can save you a lot of time and money. Moving on from there, we've got automation with carousels. So heat pressing can be a bottleneck with DTF. You can produce transfers as fast as you like. You have then got to be able to press them. So we have 2 static robots on this carousel with 3 heat press heads. So you can see there, it's simply picking up the transfer, dropping it onto the hoodie, and as it moves around the carousel, it's getting 2 presses. It will then peel, then it will post-press, and you pull the garment off and it's finished. So static robots, again, not quite as glamorous as you might think, but very, very productive and cost-effective. The return on investment on something like this is not very long at all if you've got the work for it. So at the speed you see this machine working here, it's producing 400 garments an hour with 1 operator. Now it's practically impossible to do that any other way than on a carousel heat press. So you'll see from that the cost is quite expensive, but the ROI, it comes back very, very quickly. So 18 months, you're going to pull that back in with what you've saved on that. So looking at that, if anybody fancies having a go at it, we've got one on the stand, and you can go over there and we'll give you 10 shirts, you can press them as fast as you like, and there's a £200 voucher at the end of it for the fastest one, and we'll contact you. It's a really good laugh, don't be frightened of it. It's a simple foot pedal, so if you want to have a look at that and have a go, just crawl over, have a word with Ricky, and he'll set you up with 10 shirts, and you can have a look at it and see. Okay? So that's the robotics in the print industry, where we see the functionality and the time saving and the money, static robots, not the humanoids that we see. Okay? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it from me.